Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome back to my art channel. Today I'm excited to be participating in the Aussie YouTube Hop for the month of June, and this theme the month is play using a mood board, which is up on the screen at the moment. So I'm looking forward to playing in my art journal today. Our group consists of about 13 ladies who all come together and share their arts and crafts with you in hopes of inspiring you. So I can't wait to see how the other girls have interpreted this month's theme. Don't forget to hop along next to see their creations. I'll leave a link in the description box below of the person after me on the list. Check out her project, like, comment, then go to her description box to find the next person, and so on. In the description box I will also leave a link to the YouTube channel and the Instagram place where you can tag along your creations if you follow along. So I'm working in my large Dina Wakley journal, which is huge. I think it's 11 by 14. It doesn't fit on my screen actually when I do my channels. And I'm working on craft paper, which I struggle with. I have a love-hate relationship. I love the colour, but I just find it difficult to create on. I chose the craft particularly because on the mood board it had that wood grain, so I wanted to incorporate that brown into my piece in some way. And you can see on the left hand side I've chosen 4 paints to start with that I matched to the mood board as well. So I've got lemon, blushing, lime and ocean, I think, and they're all Dina Wakley acrylics. So I'm just going in and adding paint to the background, and as the theme is play, I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to do on this. I was just playing. I put out the colours of the paints, started on the craft paper and just thought I'll just let it go from here, see what I come up with. So you can see the gesso, it's a different brand than I've usually used, and it's done something funny to the acrylic paints. It sort of split them out a little bit more than it usually does, which I was finding a little bit frustrating. I have watered down the paints a lot because I wanted a sort of watery effect in the background, because the colours in the mood board were not really out there bold colours. They were sort of more muted colours, so I wanted to sort of replicate that. In the end, you can see at the end it doesn't quite work out in that way, but I've used the same colours and I've at least had a starting point. So you can see me going in with my fingers to spread the paint around, and I was so much happier when I started doing that. And again, playing back to the theme play, what's better than playing and finger painting? I was finding with the finger painting I was getting really intense colours. You can see those really popping now, and I was able to layer the colours over each other much more. So I've kind of completely got rid of that first background with watered down paints and then just applied the thicker paints over the top. While the paint was still wet, I've just grabbed a Stabilo Ore pencil and I'm just doing some scribbly mark making scratchings into the background. You can see the black in some of the areas and some of it is just scribed into the paint itself, but it just gives some sort of interest to the background. Instead of just having that plain paint, I wanted something there. Usually at this stage I'd crack out the stencils or stamps. You can see I've got my stamps coming out now. But I didn't really want to hide the background all that much. So I've just chosen, these are the Tim Holtz mark making stamps, and I'm just using some white squid ink, which is a hybrid ink, and stamping onto the back. Now those hybrid inks, or the squid inks, sit beautifully over the top of acrylic paints, so they work really, really well. Once I'd done the white on it, I decided I wanted to have a bit of black splatter. So I've just got some drawing ink and a fan brush, and I just tap it out over the top. I find for me, using this fan brush, I get a really sort of consistent splatter. Consistent random splatter, which sounds ridiculous, but I get fine and big blots. Rather than some of the other tools I've got, I sort of get like runny spots happening as I go down the page. So you can see me here placing out some flowers. These are a stamped image by Art by Mylene, one of her abstract flowers or abstract roses, and I've stamped it onto some tissue paper, again using a permanent black ink. Now, the reason why I've done that is I was doing another piece similar to this, and I had extras sitting out and around, so I thought I might as well use them up. And when I did the background, it started to make me think of a garden, which is why I decided to choose these flowers. I could have stamped straight onto the surface, but I found, particularly when you get close to the gutter, that having it on tissue paper, you can put it right up and blend it in, so you get this really crisp stamped image, which sometimes you can't get just using your normal stamps straight onto the page. Because the background, I like the background, but it just wasn't bright enough for me, so I crack out my neon paints, which are my go-tos at the moment. I love neon paint and putting it over the top of my artwork. The reason for that is neon paints are translucent, so you can see what's happening underneath them, but it just brightens up the page. And again, I'm just going in with my fingers. I'm being quite abstract with it. I don't mind if it goes out over the lines. I'm not really thinking about where I'm going. I'm just sort of blending in the colours where I think it needs to be. I'm also putting some of those colours over the colours in the background to brighten them up a little bit and just to add a little bit more interest. And you can sort of see how it brightens the page just by adding that little pop of colour. I would love to have sort of a neon blue. I haven't come across that yet. I don't know if it exists. If anyone knows, please let me know. So now I'm just going back with my heat tool again and drying it off. And I really like to dry off my layers as I go with acrylic paints, because when you're going to put stuff over the top of them, it just means everything is sealed, ready for the next layer. So now I'm going in with the Posca paint pen, just a white one, to add in some detail to the flowers. And I'm just randomly choosing bits of the flower to colour in. So some little dots, the stripy little bits, just to help pop it out from the background a little bit and make it look, again, I suppose, more abstract or more pattern based. I find if you do things like this over the top of a stamped image, it kind of helps it look a little bit more like yours. It's not just someone else's image. So I like to add my own flair to it, and most people do that with their stamped images by colouring it in or something, but I just, it's something fun to do. And I'm particularly loving how those the neon paints went over the background. That when I got sort of to this stage in the process, I was so happy with what was happening on the page and how it's sort of leaping off the page. Looking back on this sort of hindsight, I don't have much of that craft paper still showing. There's a little bit down in the corners. I possibly could have left a little bit more, but again, I'm a real terror for white space, or in this case brown space. I tend to fill it all up, so I'm actually quite impressed I managed to keep that amount free. The first paint pen I used is a thicker paint pen. It's one of the 5M pens, which is a bullet point. This one's one of the fine paint pens. I think it's either a 3 or a 1. And it's what I've used to replace my Sharpie fine pen. I find it's beautiful. It works really well. I always get an opaque line. I know a lot of people rave on about the white Signo ballpoint pens, but I've always found, for the way I work, it doesn't work for me. It just doesn't like the mixed media bits that I do. It may well be that everything is never really all that dry when I'm working, so that could possibly be the problem. But I find the paint pens work really well. Finally, I'm just going around my page with a white pen and putting in just some random dots, and that's my attempt at trying to put a little bit more of that white space back into the piece itself. I had the white dots in the background with the stamping, but after putting the the neon paints over it, they sort of got dulled down into the background. So I just wanted to bring that pop of white back onto the page. I'm also getting my Stabilo All Pencil back out again and doing a little bit more of that mark making, so doing some sort of tallies in the background and so on, just to tie in the background. One of the last things that I'm doing is actually creating some stems for my flowers. So I'm just being really, really scribbly with a paintbrush, and some drawing ink. Not really thinking about what I'm doing. They don't really look like flower stems, but I'm happy enough with them, and sort of doing a bit of a scribble round where the flower head attaches to the flower and letting it drip down. And the reason I'm not just dripping the paint down is because it would have run straight over some of the images I had, which I didn't want to do because I already had the paint pen there, and while I could have repainted over it or wiped it away, there would have been the dark stain from the black ink. So I didn't want to, you know, ruin the images I had. I'm now going through my little collage ephemera box that I've got with all these chipboard words or quotes. And I quite often use these in my art journal pages. I tear off the front piece so they don't stick out too much, but nothing I really found in there sort of had that message of play for me. And I didn't really know what I wanted to put on this page. I know I wanted to have something play-based, but I really wasn't sure. So in the end, I just got out some really old basic grey chipboard letters and just put play. And I chose, they were pink, and I thought, oh, that might work, but they were just too pink and pale. So I decided that I would paint them, excuse me, with some black gesso. So I'm just going over and painting them up. And the reason I chose black is because it gave a bit of a focus on the page. And the good thing about this is a Dina Wakley black gesso, it dries matte. So it dries quite quickly. It goes up really well over that glossy surface, and it dries matte. I'm just being careful sort of to go around the edges as well, so you don't sort of get that rough edge, and then drying it off. Now you can see as I've been painting, I've been, you know, putting my paints onto the other page and not worrying about it. I tend to do that a lot in my art journals because it just breaks up that white space for me. So I've got something interesting to use the next time I go and journal. I decided with my black just to break it up and add a little bit of what was already on the page, that I would put some stamping over it. So I've just used the white to, it was a white scribble over the top, and you can sort of see how it kind of blends in. Then I got my Tim Holtz small chat stickers out, and I actually found two of the stickers in there that had something to do with play, and I thought they worked really, really well. Finally, I had a bit of a look at the chipboard and thought, while it looked fine, I wanted to go around the edge with some pink. So I've just used my Posca paint pen in neon pink, and I'm just going around the edges and the inner bits with the pink to edge it. I've just repeated myself, sorry about that. I do that a lot with my chipboard pieces if they're not too fiddly. Because sometimes when you've painted over them, you've got that brown edge and then you've got the black coming down. It just looks a bit odd. So if you actually go around and edge it all in black, which is what I usually do, or a colour, it kind of makes it look deliberate. Now on the Y, you can see I had a slight splodge of pink, and I actually really liked that. So I actually put out a little bit of my paint pen onto my other page and have deliberately now added some splodges into the background and added some onto my page as well as the chipboard, just to again tie in those colours. Because the Posca paint pens are actually acrylic paint, they play really well with any backgrounds that you've got, so it just works exactly the same as just using a normal acrylic paint. Underneath and just above, I've put two little of the stickers. I think one says remember to play, and I can't remember what the other one said. And finally, I decided I just wanted to do a little bit more mark making with the blue, because the blue kind of got lost in the background. So I chose my turquoise paint marker to add in those crosses. So here's a close-up of the final page. I loved doing this. It was so much fun, and it's so much fun just to sit down and play. Had the mood board to support me, but just go and play with the equipment. So I do hope you take on this challenge, and if you do partake, please tag yourself in it to Aussie YouTube Hop. We'd love to see what you've done. please make sure that you check out the next person on the list. So go into my description box and see who's next. Click on their video and then you'll go on to the next person. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye for now.